All right, guys. Well, the stream can hear us now, but we're just going to get cracking. Let's just do a sound check and just check we can hear Dori. So, Dori, give us your best purple burglar alarm.
Purple burglar alarm.
And Trumpets, your best purple burglar alarm.
Purple burglar alarm.
I said your best. Why are you holding back on me? I've heard you do at least 4 better purple burglar alarms ever.
Well, you know, it is early in the morning. A few more cracks and I'll have it down, I'm sure.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, she said.
This vocal fry, Matt's got the vocal fry going on. I love it when Americans go like that for like a minute. But isn't that normally like a California thing, Matt? Like, dude.
I don't know. That sort of thing was never anything I studied. So it just is what it is.
Fair enough. All right. Where's the picture of me? There's a shot where I'm in it and no one else is in it. Oh, no. Look, we've revealed them too early. There we go. Let's hit this. You are listening to Missed Apex iRacing podcast. Let's get faster. Welcome to Missed Apex iRacing podcast. We are a podcast that looks at iRacing from a hobbyist point of view. So what you should be doing, what series you should be joining, how to get better. Don't worry, it won't be me telling you how to get better. I'm just your host, Richard Spanners Ready. I'm joined by someone who also isn't going to make you any faster. Matt Trumpets. How's it going, Matt?
Going fine, thanks. I might not make you faster, but I will talk a lot at least.
Yeah, it fills airtime, doesn't it? And I accidentally flicked over to our expert racer for the day. It is Dori-N Tabachnik. How's it going, sir?
Hello, Lowell. This is the first time you ever said my last name correctly.
Is that okay? Is it a secret?
It's not perfect.
Tabachnik.
Nobody ever says it right. Everybody's called me Tabachnik.
Oh, really? I'm very particular about saying people's surnames correctly, especially like the likes of Leclerc and all that kind of thing. It's just the kind of thing I do. But Dori, you are a YouTuber and you are still making YouTube videos, giving us advice and track guides. And you've hit a big milestone. You are now part of the big 5K club.
Yeah, I'm part of the elite now, the NASA of sim racing. Basically an astronaut.
So what does that mean to you to get to 5K?
Well, the number itself doesn't really mean anything, but the process was very meaningful because I thought it would be a lot harder than it was. It went pretty smoothly. I always put that as some sort of I always put that number or that area on some sort of pedestal, and I realized I wasn't that far from it.
So Brad has often said to like me and Matt and he said, "Well, I don't understand how people don't accidentally get up to 4K and 5K. How did you find the process? Did you have to kind of actively try to get to 5K, or was it something that came naturally through, your skills?
Well, I had to filter out the races where I knew I wouldn't be doing that well. So I had to focus on the ones that I knew that I will be extra competitive on, and that kind of made it a lot easier. If I would kept doing the usual nonsense where I'll jump into an MX-5 race and then to a Porsche Cup race, then to a P2 race, would have taken me a lot longer. Still be possible, but would have taken a lot longer than that.
As you got closer, did you also start looking at where the highest strength of fields were when picking races, or was it just solely, this is where I think I have the best chance of like finishing in a podium position, for example?
5K is usually not the point. Like you're still a pleb in the eyes of the esports guys when you're 5K.
Oh no!
So there's still ways to go. When you reach 7K, 6.5, that's where we really you really got to start thinking about which hours are best for higher strength of fields.
Hang on a minute, you're getting a bit of trolling. From Yanis, who I think is one of yours, and says, Dori-N farmed GT3 Fix. Was that?
That's absolutely true.
Explain.
I'm still farming GT3 Fix. See, the problem is in Top Split in iRacing is that we talked about last time, the Uber setups, the Hyperdocs, the setups that are just way, way, way faster than any pace setup you can buy or most people can make on their own.
Hacker setups.
So I stick to the fixed series where none of that can apply, and if you got podium, it's because you earned it, and not because you're using something OP.
I think we did whinge about this enough last time you were on, but I feel like because they've not policed that, they've had this evolution where people are just going to start gravitating towards these fixed setup series because that's the one they know, and frankly, it's easier. So as long as as long as it's not like it is at Alton Park this week in the F3, I think we're all happy. Have you partaken in any Alton Park with the chicanes in F3?
I have not. I'm terrified.
It's awful. Oh my God. Like, Matt, I don't know if you've done any of it. I jumped on Tuesday. Alton Park, to me, isn't like, a headline F3 track anyway. If I was going to put together an F3 series, Alton Park would never, ever feature on that. But they have these votes, and I guess there's some Alton Park specialists. And they even ran, Matt, with the chicane version as well to make it even more not an F3 track. And it was just awful. It was unenjoyable. It was hotter than the sun. And the iRacing setup this time just happened to be quite understeery too. And any punishment, any off track just sucked you into a wall. I just went, I just parked it. I crashed. I took my 24th place or whatever. And I said, I'm not going back.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I actually got on because iRacing now has the fixed setup. I realized that, I can practice before a Monday when the other setups are available. And I jumped on and I hated the iRacing setup this week. I went to a variation of the setup we used for the Barcelona race and was much, much quicker at the same temperature with it. So I feel like this is the first time they've kind of missed the boat. It was unstable, easy to crash, and just not as fast. So I was thinking I would do a race because actually I felt like I was reasonably quick, but then I had work yesterday, so couldn't get on.
This is why you have a live chat, Dori. Jerome says F3 has to have a certain number of free tracks, and I didn't realise that. But, you've got some better free tracks, haven't you, than Alton Park? Like Okayama's not on the schedule this year.
Yeah, but I think the past 2 seasons we had Okayama, we had Laguna Seca.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of the really good free tracks. So, Alton Park is and it has to get into rotation at some point.
Okay, fine. I'll take it on. I'll take it on the chin. But it was awful, and I'm not doing it. I'm really gutted because I missed Hockenheim. I wanted to try that, but we were in the midst of our Missed Apex round 5, which I'll talk about a bit later. We've got quite a few things we want to talk about here today. I think Dori's going to talk a bit about coaching. He's going to give us a bit of a primer on how to survive the Spa 24. Which is in just a week and a little bit. We've got our first training session for it tonight, which is Tuesday the 15th. And we'll be practicing loads next week because I've got absolutely no idea how a 24-hour race works. I want to see if Dori's got a grasp of the Formula V as well. But let's start with a chat room question that's just popped in. Somebody has asked about telemetry. Can't find it now. Does Dori analyze his telemetry to improve lap times? Oh, that was Jerome as well. Do you use the lap charts and the graphs, and who do you compare yourself to?
Not as much as I should, really. If I'll use it consistently, I'll find more time, I believe. It's a great tool, but it's just force of habit. I just don't go there, and I'll try to find the time on the track instead of doing 10 laps and then analyzing them, comparing them, and doing another 10 laps, which is what you should do. I just do 50 laps, and that's how I get better. But I definitely recommend it when I'm coaching specifically.
So I've got a couple of people that I will compare myself to within our group. So I know Kyle Power's got a very similar driving style to me, and then we've got a lad, Danny Henney, who's one of our very quickest guys. So because you don't like the VRS telemetry, do you? But we insist on people having it on during our event.
I'm using a different platform called United Racing Data. It's free, and my buddy made it, so I'm gonna help him build it.
I might go check that out.
Yeah, it works on all racing sims. I'm just gonna plug it.
Don't
mind me.
Do it. No, that's fine.
Yeah, so it works on all racing sims. It's currently free, and it's gonna be on console soon, so you'll be able to do it with Gran Turismo even. It's pretty cool. It gives you all the tools that you need to compare and build setups and whatever.
Oh, what an exciting thing to be kind of on the ground floor of. But what I found initially when I started using it, I don't, Matt, you're probably the same. Like you look at where did you break into Lacombe or whatever, and you go, wow, the say like Kyle is there's a 50-meter difference or whatever in the braking, and also it's the other way. I'd assumed I was braking too late. Actually, he's dragging it all the way down the Kemmel Straight, but I found that has got less and less. So now, increasingly, as I look at Kyle's, because I've got into the habits of going, well, Kyle does that, well, I'll copy that. Now I look at it and it's pretty similar. Like, at least, I'm not just miles off or doing, a hard brake instead of a drag brake. So it's really helped me.
Yeah, it can be very, very helpful. I always find it frustrating just in terms of the layout, because you can see, oh, they brake here and I brake here, but there's not a visual reference on the track for me to connect it to. So like in a way, it's like, okay, I can see they do this or that, but I can't really get a picture in my head of exactly how much that distance is, if you catch my drift.
So on the VR, I don't know if you're using the VRS Trace. It's not as good as Dori's Mates app, I'm absolutely certain of. But on the VRS Trace, you can literally see, oh, Kyle is braking 20 meters ahead of me. So wherever your braking point was, you can at least go, I'm braking too early. And I found that really, really useful. Before we get too deep into a telemetry chat, tell us about your coaching, Dori. So you've been offering actual coaching. I can take money from my wallet and use it to go faster with the Tabachnik expertise.
The Tabachnik method.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like, sounds dodgy, that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now recently people started approaching me. I never thought about doing that, but recently people started approaching me and asked if I could coach them, and both in a league I'm doing and some other people around the world who watch my channels, who like how I explain things, and ask me if that's a possibility. And the more I did it, the more I realized this is actually kind of fun to do. And if I can make a little bit of money out of it, which I'm really doing to buy my girlfriend a wedding ring. So I'm trying to save up for that. And because she manages the funds in the house, I can't do it without her knowing. So I have to get outside income to make that happen.
But the thing that I feel really bad now is that today's special guest is Dori's fiance. No, I like that you have to sneak money to buy her something. That's lovely. And also, once that wedding ring's out the way, it can be something that just gets poured back into projects.
That's true. To improve my channel or do other things, better gear or whatever.
I like that we all immediately assume correctly that there's no way your fiance will ever hear that until you've accumulated the money and bought her the ring.
But look, this is an important thing to note. Once there's little kiddie winkles on the way, the funds getting channeled into sim gear, that kind of dries up. So you need to have a little bit of a slush fund, kids. Just warning you for the future. How have you found that, though, on the day-to-day? Because there are some people who are really responsive to coaching, and there's some people who have probably developed bad habits and find it really hard to get out of.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. First thing I do in a coaching session is I try to manage the expectations. I start with a little questionnaire, and I ask the person some questions regarding what does he think are his problems, he or her. What they think are their problems and where they want to be, what they think they need to improve on. Most people just say pace, and a lot of people are wrong about that, by the way. Most people's problems usually aren't pace, because if you're not finishing races, I don't care what sort of lap times you're doing.
Yeah,
that's not your problem. But I start off with a questionnaire, and then I'll explain how we'll go about it, where you'll start recording telemetry and we'll compare to mine. And we'll get some baseline, and then I'll see where the real issues are, and I'll develop these exercises for them to do, whether it's with me on track in a session or on their own, and try to help them get better from that.
It's really interesting the ways in which people are slow. So when I did the AI thing, which by the way is a reasonable tool, I think if you've got an event coming up, stick some AI cars on there, just get used to being in traffic. But you can choose how on pace the AIs are. So you can give a range and say, right, you've got 30 cars, do them between 80% and alien. Or you can make them all rubbish. But what's really interesting is that the cars that are rubbish are not rubbish in the ways that humans are rubbish. They just go a bit slower out of the straights or carry less speed. Humans tend to be rubbish, I find, Dori-N, because they will be out of shape in a corner or brake too early, but they're always flat on the power, from corner to corner. So it's interesting to suddenly to sort of start picking apart the different ways in which people are slow.
Yeah, everybody's got different issues. Some people overlap their pedals a lot, which causes all sorts of problems. And that's a nasty habit for people to have. You're holding brake and throttle at the same time, whether it be under braking, under acceleration, in the mid corner. It's basically usually a result of fear. You're trying to create some sort of stability, by doing that, you create other problems. There's people who have a hard time knowing where they are on the track. They just don't know how far they are to the edge. They don't know how to leave enough space. They don't know how to maximize their track usage, therefore losing a lot of time and causing accidents. There's quite a few problems.
So when Brad decided to do a rate your hot lap to help us raise funds for our series before we started charging an entry fee, he was getting people to send in a hot lap, and then he would critique what they were doing and go through it with a little voiceover. And he showed me all of them, and time again it was, you're not using the track here, you're not using the track there. And that was the biggest thing, just people aren't using the racetrack. But until you have a coach looking at you to show you where you could be gaining extra inches, you don't know.
Yeah. And with a one-on-one session, when you really dedicate yourself to one person for whatever extended period of time, you can both find the problem and find a way to fix it. So there's special exercises that I developed that really, really help with that. And within 3 or 4 laps, you know where you are on the track, and you start maximizing your track usage.
Yeah, I like the idea of little skills and drills. One thing Brad had me doing was fly down a straight and then brake all the way to find the locking point, like get to the locking point and then come off it, and then this is one of the biggest things I had to learn early on, is that the amount of brake force you need to get to the locking point changes throughout the corner. And I just never realized that. So just trying to stay at the point of locking all the way down till you stop is a fascinating exercise as well.
That's a great exercise. I do something similar where I'll do that with a graph that's showing your pedal inputs that's right in front of you to create muscle memory.
Ooh.
So I'll tell you to peak at 80%, gradually release to 10%, and then smoothly reduce it to 0%. So basically, if you do that 30 times, your foot will actually remember where is that 10% every time, and you'll start doing that on the track easier. You won't have to concentrate on it.
Oh, Matt, you're not allowed to have lessons with Dori-N. I don't want you any faster.
Too late.
Wait, what? No, you're not signing up, are you, for DT lessons?
I might. That actually, I like that approach rather a lot. It tracks with what I feel would be most helpful to me in my current situation.
Why don't you just start a podcast about iRacing and then make the topics of the show the particular thing you're struggling with?
Well, that sounds like a clever idea.
Hey, we'll put all of Dori's contact details in the show notes on YouTube and on the podcatch, whatever you're listening to, your iPlayer or your Pocket Cast or whatever. We'll put all the details and links to get in touch with you there, Dori. But the thing I'm struggling with at the moment, that I'm going to ask for your advice for free, and all our listeners are going to benefit, is the Spa 24. Spa 24 hours GT3. I've not done anything like this ever, so I don't know even what to ask. Luckily, Sam Labine gave us a question, and he said, would it be possible for Dori to give us a primer on the... You say primer, don't you, Matt? A primer on the different systems in GT3 cars. I know ABS and traction control are there, but I have no idea how to effectively use them and when they are activated, etc. Oh my God, I've not even thought of this. Is there extra things? Is there like an overtake button? Is there DRS? Or do I just drive?
Yeah, you're good. You only have those two systems. You have the ABS and you have traction control. And the way you use them is by not using them. In iRacing, unlike real life, you don't want to lean on the ABS. It burns up tires. In real life, I've spoken to real life GT3 drivers. They lean on the ABS all the time. They'll slam on the brakes, let the ABS do the work, and that'll be fine. In iRacing, that's the last thing you want to do. That you really want to try to avoid that.
No. How do I know when I'm getting near the lock point, though? Do I feel something?
there's a vibration in the wheel. There's a little vibration. That's the best imitation I have for force feedback, by the
And
way.
that's your ABS. That's the ABS telling you that, oh, I'm now helping you and stopping you locking up.
There's also, for each car, there's a different LED that will signal that as well.
Oh, okay. So I need to find out where that LED is, Matt.
Yeah, you do. You want to know where that is and sort of have it out of the corner of your eye. And it was easy when we did the 919 because like the dashboard has all these little blue LEDs that start to light up as you hit that lock point.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. So what do I do? Do I just drive as if I don't have it?
Exactly. You drive as if you're actively trying to avoid it. So when it's the same technique as when Brad taught you with threshold braking. That's what you did. You were braking on the threshold of locking the whole time. So you're doing the same thing effectively. You're braking on the threshold of ABS kicking in the whole time. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world if it lights up for a second or a millisecond, right? You just don't want to lean on it consistently at every braking point because that will just cause the tire temps and the tire pressure to rise dramatically. The car won't turn in, and you're going to have major issues with pace.
Okay, so I if that light comes up, it's not the end of the world, but just try and avoid it. So that's a good tip. And is braking much different to the single seaters? Am I a bit more binary with the GT3 car?
Well, I would definitely focus even more on trail braking. So you trail brake with the F3s, but there's even a bigger emphasis on weight management. Remember, we spoke about that.
Yeah.
That was talked about it last podcast. So there's an even bigger emphasis on weight management with such a heavy car. It's 1,200 kilograms, I think, it's on that region. And when it's front engine, then you really have to focus on smooth application of wheel input on low speed corners. Where it's mid engine, we're going to be very smooth on high speed corners to try to make sure that the car doesn't snap. There's all these little kinks and different things between the cars. So I would suggest basically two things if you're trying to prepare yourself for an endurance race. First thing is, whatever the track is right now, let's say it's Imola right now at VRS,
yes,
go race it.
I did, yeah. How'd it go?
I don't care if you don't know the track. Be 10 seconds off pace. It doesn't matter. Just go race it, get used to the situation, get the nerves out, because by the time you reach the 24 hours, you'll be a lot more comfortable. And the second thing is I forgot, and I'll remember that and fill you in eventually.
So I am quite glad that there is some punishment for leaning on the ABS. So I was kind of, I was a little bit kind of not nervous, but I wondered if people who struggled with braking would generally do better in these ABS systems. But actually, if you're leaning on it, you're doing yourself some damage. So that's one worry out of my head. I still have to be good on the brakes.
Yeah, I mean, it won't harm them as much as with a car that doesn't have ABS, but it will definitely impact their performance significantly.
All right, and the other one is traction control that Sam mentioned. Does that mean I get mid-corner, then I just pin it and rip it?
No, you should never use it. Never, ever. It cuts in pretty late anyways, so you really want to actively avoid it. Sometimes the final corner at Imola comes to mind where you're just slamming on the curb and having to accelerate very hard into the main straight at Imola. So sometimes the ABS the traction control will kick in there, and there's not a lot you can do about it, and it's still the faster line. But in most situations, I would say 95%, you want to try to avoid it altogether.
It can have a nasty habit of kicking in and causing you to crash where you wouldn't normally expect to if you're used to driving non-traction control cars.
Most likely, you will crash anyways. A lot of people think it's the traction control that's causing me to keep spinning and I'm not going to be able to save the car. Where in most situations, if you already got the backhand kicked out that far out, then you're probably not going to be able to save. Maybe it would have been a different slide. Maybe it would have slid a bit differently, but still would have been a bad thing to happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When I was first learning to drive with it, I would anticipate the car doing one thing, but then the traction control would catch and it would do the opposite. And so you would be pointed, you would have the wheel going entirely the wrong way to save whatever direction you are now headed in.
Yeah, so the same basic concept of slamming on both the brake and the throttle at the same time applies. If you feel out of control, just slam on both of them.
So Sam in the chat asked, should you disable them? You can adjust them in the car.
No, because they're still there to save you when necessary. You want to use as little as possible when you're building a setup. The more advanced the setup is, the better it is, and the less traction control and ABS you'll have to use, the better it is of producing grip. But at some point, you're just gonna have to learn to live with the fact that it's there, and it's gonna kick in. You're gonna have to adjust to it.
Oh, excellent. Right. Okay. I'm still terrified because I did exactly what you said, which was I went and did Imola in the GT3, 10 seconds off the pace. After I'd thrown my toys out of the pram about Alton Park, I was like, right, I don't need F3 anyway. So I went, right, what can I do? What can I do? And I've got the Mercedes GT3 car. We've just agreed as a swarm, because we're attacking a Missed Apex swarm, we're attacking the Spa 24, that anyone who doesn't have a car, everybody get the Lamborghini, so that a lot of people have got the same car already. And so we're going to have a lot of Lamborghinis in there. Matt, I told him about that before the show, and he went, oh no, I'm slower in those kind of cars. I prefer the Mercedes and the BMW. So how big a factor is it going to be, these different cars? And Matt, what sort of gap are you talking about in pace between those cars?
Half a second a lap, easily. I mean, for me, I found the Mercedes to be the fastest. I've raced it at Spa before, so I'm not surprised by that. The Audi, I'm close-ish with. And the BMW, I'm a little bit slower, but it's a lot more consistent. But it is, as you said before the show, incredibly boring to drive.
Well, yeah. Is that what people tend to find, Dori? The BMW and the Mercs. I have found the Merc. It sounds gorgeous, but I just feel like I've got to stop basically out of the previous turn. I've got to start braking already.
I actually find the brakes on the Merc pretty good, better than the Porsche, for example. But I guess different strokes. If you want to try to build consistency, you do need to try to focus on one or two cars. And if the front engine layout is working out for you better, Matt, that's great. But if you want to improve and become like a better GT3 driver, then you should take that out of your mind and just drive anything they'll give you. And that'll just make you a better GT3 driver. Now, in terms of the Lambo, I know exactly how you feel, because I love the Mercedes too. I really like the Mercedes and the way it handles. I like the rotation. I like the little snappiness on the brakes that it gets sometimes. It allows you to over-rotate the car when necessary, stuff like that. And I find it very difficult to trust the Lambo. So sometimes on high-speed corners, the back end will just snap, and I will have a hard time trying to figure out why. And maybe that's sort of the same problem. I'm just guessing. Maybe it's that sort of the same problem you're having, and then because of that, it just causes you to drive slow. Not because you're on the limit, because you're afraid that if you'll go into the limit, it'll just do something unpredictable. That's mid-engines for you. But there's definitely ways to mitigate that. If you try to brake a little bit, you drive the GT3s with the diff. The differential is everything. The timing on the downshift, basically, is everything. So if you try to do that in a specific way, and I'll talk to you about it in private if you want, it'll be a lot easier for you to get grips on it.
Okay, so the gearing and where I downshift is going to be vital.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because you want that peak, the rear diff is going to give you peak rotation just when you downshift. So if you want stability, you want to downshift earlier than your rotation point. If you're struggling with understeer, you want to downshift exactly when you're going to start to turn in the car.
Oh, this is a little bit. We had a conversation, I think, with Brad a little while back. Even in the F3s, we were saying once you got to say for example, the final hairpin at Okayama, and you're going up that hill and you're just trying to get that extra bite. If you save the final downshift for the apex and just downshift and just get yourself turned in and bit, is it something similar to that?
Absolutely, 100%. But because you're running a much heavier car, it's not as nimble. It's always finding it much harder than the F3 to change direction. Then there's an even bigger emphasis on it. So it's even more useful.
Okay, here's the bit I'm really nervous about is the team element. So if I go and stuff it at Alton Park, I can go and have a paddy and no one cares. If I'd not told anyone, no one needed to know just exactly how furious I was. It's going to be a bit different. You've got a bit more responsibility to your teammates in a 24-hour race, so I will be taking it nice and gently. So there's a few questions I've got about just the mechanics of how it works. But firstly, when you're in a team event, Dori-N, and you are more than welcome to come and join a Missed Apex Spa 24 team, well, what do you do with your pace? Obviously, I'm not
sending it.
You're sending it constantly every lap.
Yeah, because if I'm not going for a good position, then the whole 24 hours isn't worth it. I'd rather crash on the first lap than having to fight for 12th position for 24 hours.
And your teammates agree with this policy?
I don't care. That's their problem.
Well, do you know what? We have quite a lot of win or bin people who would probably go, yeah, let's roll the dice. Let's have a quick Dory who doesn't care.
Well, yeah, I'm being too, I'm not that aggressive. I will take it down a notch, but I'll do my best to be competitive throughout my stint. And for that, I'll do a hell of a lot of practice. So I'll do 300-400 laps before an endurance race, so I'll be comfortable where I'm at. So if, let's say race pace, I need to, I'm just throwing a number out there that I think is appropriate. I think at 218 for Spa. I want to be at 218. That means that if I'm pushing, I'm at 217s. If the race pace is 218, I need to be at 217s when I need it, like that. That means the 218 is just easy mode.
So if you want to catch someone or you need to hold a gap, you go right into quali modes.
Yeah, because eventually I want to save tires. I want to double or triple stint, right? I want to stay on the tires for as long as possible without having to replace them. I want to save fuel potentially, maybe. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
All right, I've got some real noob questions here. Okay, stand in. Like, you're just about to realize how little I know about the Spa.
Is this your first endurance race?
Yeah, this is my first.
That's sweet.
My
You're gonna crash on T1.
I know, I'm so frightened of that. I was set to do the Daytona 24. I'd done way not enough practice for that. So do you remember they had all the problems launching the servers? That took it out the window that I could do it. And I was so relieved. Because I thought, was I on your team, Matt? I just thought, I'm just going to stuff it and I'm going to ruin the race for you.
Yeah. But that is the way to get into endurance racing. The first race I ever did, they're like, here, it's Le Mans 24. You're in the fastest car. Why don't you start the race for us?
No, I won't be doing that. I won't be starting the races. So, yes, this is very much my first. So, for example, like, okay, how long does your tyres last? How long does a tank of fuel last? So in my one stint, which is going to be what, like an hour? How does it work? Am I going to have to fuel in that hour?
No, you have enough fuel. You start with roughly 120 liters, which I don't know how much that is in gallons, but you start with roughly, no one does. Yeah. 120 liters should last you to around an hour and a little bit. And so that means if you're just doing one stint, all you have to do is get out of pits, go for an hour, and return to the pits. There's nothing in it for you. Regarding tires, that's really, really different from one driver to another. The driving style, how far. If you're smooth, you can be very fast while saving tires. If you're not smooth, it doesn't matter what your pace is, you're going to burn them up.
I'm smooth and slow. So I could be really...
That's really good for tires.
Yeah. Just don't push at all. The
best way to be competitive in endurance races is strategy. So even if you're a second off base and you're split, not off the alien space, in your split, but you have the strategy down, you're double stinting your tires, potentially even triple stinting the tires, 3 hours on the same tires.
Really?
You're not swapping drivers every 2 seconds. You just let one guy do the work and be consistent. That's going to be much better later on in the race than having a guy like me pushing it, putting it in the wall, repairing the car, pushing it again. So it differs.
What do you like to do, Matt, when it comes to stints? Because an hour seems like a really long time anyway. I can't see me doing double, triple stints. I'd need a stadium, pal. I don't have the bladder for it.
Usually your ideal strategy is to double stint, and that will go along with the tires until you get to, say, late morning and beyond, where the temperatures start to get up into the 40s. Then you might have to change tires every stint. But in the past, usually what we do is we would double stint the driver, double stint the tires, and that way you save time on the driver change. So I think each thing you do extracts a cost. You can't change tires and fuel at the same time. So if you change tires, that's longer in the pits. If you change driver, that's also an extra time penalty in the pits.
Okay, so I'm going to do a double stint. I'm holding first position for our team. In that double stint, I will need to refuel maybe one time. So I'm coming in one time, and I've kept my tyres gleaming. They've still got the little shiny exterior on them. How long does it take to fuel up?
I'm not entirely sure. That's something you should test out, definitely. But
it's practice.
I do think, though, because things on that matter have changed a bit, that if you go for fuel and tires, the driver swap doesn't really cost you anything.
Okay.
I think iRacing kind of realized that people are going to pass out behind the wheel at some point if they keep doing that with driver swap penalties, because we're all a bunch of tryhards, right? We're trying to get the advantage. So they want it for it not to be as much of a penalty or not at all. Not entirely sure. It's worth testing. Go in for an hour and then swap drivers and tires and fuel and see, and do that again without swapping drivers and measure, and you'll be able to see what's what.
The point of my question is, does it take so long to fuel that I can go for a pee and top up my vodka?
It depends on how easy it is to get in and out of your rig.
Yeah, I'm in a shed, you see. I've got to get out of the shed. Then I've got to avoid the wife asking me, oh, how's your thing going? Shut up, I haven't got time. Got to get back to the race car. My team is depending on me.
You're going to need a bucket.
Yeah, I could just have a bucket or a stadium power nearby. The main thing for me, Matt, is just letting people down. But the Missed Apex Endurance community, I am led to understand, is very kind and caring and understanding.
Yeah, they are, because we have all been in the position of spinning the car off the track, putting it in the wall, ending the race on lap 7. But, I mean, at the end of the day, endurance racing, your best chance at doing well is simply not needing major repairs on the car. So simply don't crash, and you'll probably be top 10 by the time you get to the end of the race.
Okay, that will be really interesting tonight to see where the pace is and what I can do in those cars. Because my experience at Imola, it was just such a different feeling. Everything's kind of happening in slow motion, Dori, but also at the same time, there's new unexpected things that are happening at every yard through a corner that I'm not expecting. So, yeah, it's slow, and I don't have enough time to do the things all at the same time.
Yeah, you want to try to take advantage of the fact that it's slow. And sort of, our boomer brains are never reacting quick enough nowadays. So you want to take advantage of the fact that it's slow and the braking points are nice and long at Imola, and really try to pinpoint the car where you want it throughout the braking zone. So you can make, because you have ABS, you can make small corrections, make sure you open up the corner as much as you can before the entry, and really try to find the apex. That's what you can enjoy by driving a slower car. With the F3, you point and shoot. You're guessing where the braking point is, you're slamming on the brakes, and you're just hoping you nailed it well enough so you can turn in with good speed.
Yeah, you've kind of you've decided as you go in, and then you kind of see the result.
You're
I guess.
a passenger.
Whereas with this, you're making lots of micro decisions all the way through the corner. Looking forward to it. Anyway, let's move on. I'm going to try and keep these episodes just a little shorter, so let's see if we can keep it to kind of 40, 45 minutes. But there's a couple of, do I do a question or do I do the Formula Vs? Quickly then, let's try and get them both in. The Formula Vs, you've been doing track guides for them.
For iRacing, yes. For their main channel.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that flex. Oh, sorry. Dori, I need to zoom out on the camera. I can't fit those guns you're flexing in.
Big head.
So the Formula V's been out now for several weeks, about 4 or 5 weeks. What's the reaction been? Have you learned anything about the car? What's your overall impression of it still?
Well, it's basically a Beetle, isn't it?
A Beetle.
It's like a 50s or 70s Beetle. Don't catch me on that word, but something like that. It's a terrible engine, terrible gearbox, and it's a great car. It's just slow as all hell. And if you want to get into open wheelers and you want to understand the mythology behind it, that's the car to go to. It's really great that they made it a rookie car because it's just perfect for that. Unlike the Skippy, don't shoot me, Skippy, you guys. Skippy is very slidey. You don't really slide with open wheelers, especially the high speed ones. You're on rails. And with the V, you don't want to slide. You want to create situations where you're not sliding, you're not scrubbing the speed, and it's very easy to slide. So you learn how to adapt to that and really, mitigate that and find the speed within the limits.
Yeah, and you really learn to use the tires for kind of speed control as well, and use the front tires in the final phases of a corner. So it's really a good car to learn about understeer and oversteer. The only thing that I sort of don't like, and that caught a lot of the rookies out when we had it as our fun race for the Missed Apex series, is you lift off in the wrong place and then the back end just goes around.
Yeah, and that's really good if you want to learn car control and steering with the throttle. It's a cliche at this point. You got to steer with the throttle. What does that mean? It means that if you lift, you're going to spin, and that if you go flat out, you're going to understeer like crazy. You'll never make it through the corner. So maintaining that 20%, 30% into the corner just to get the right amount of rotation. If you'll see the track out I made, I'm staying with the same angle with the wheel throughout a very long corner, and I'm just modulating the throttle to maintain my position on the track, to stay on the racing line. So the car wants to slide out, I'm going to push it a little bit further, the throttle, and if it wants to understeer, then I'm going to lift a little bit more. That's just kind of how I maintain the car.
It's a really good car to learn that you can go way faster than you initially think. So around Laguna Seca, initially there was like 6 braking zones. And then by the time you got to the end, you went, oh, you just brake that one time. There's so many cars.
Brake on turn number 1, that's it.
Yeah, and you just go, oh, wow, I can go flat. And then the more confidence you get with it, the more you can go flat and you start using the tyres and everything. Okay, so I'm glad you still like that. A final question then from Ollie. What would you do again? We can all answer this. What would you do again if you could start in iRacing from someone starting out their journey? This is Ollie starting out his journey. What apps would you have found earlier? What series do you wish you'd have started? So you're rookie Dori, but with all your knowledge, where do you start your iRacing journey?
Get a load cell and install IRFFB.
I'm with you on the load cell. I'm with you.
Everything else is pointless. Like everything else, I'm talking, get the best gear, get the highest refresh rate, get, apps to tell you your iRating and deltas and all that. Remove everything you can from the screen. You're a noob, accept that. And really. And just concentrate on the next corner. Don't have only have relatives on and put them somewhere aside where if you crash, you'll be able to see them. But that's it. Don't use Delta. Don't use any other data. Don't just focus on where you are on the track and use IRFFB to get more direct force feedback, more accurate force feedback, and a load cell so you'll learn how to trail brake better. That's it.
Oh, that's interesting. Load cell's high up there for me, but I would have said go straight for like a T300 level wheel, because that's what gives you the experience of the sim and makes it like super fun. And you go, oh, actually, I can feel the track and feel the curves. I think most things below that, you don't really get the full racing experience. I think that's kind of the crossover between video game and sim for me.
Right. Well, G29 can get the job done, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the belt-driven wheels, G29, G27s, they're cog-driven wheels.
Yes.
So there's no belt, and they don't have any flexibility. There's no tire feel. So with belt-driven, you're starting to get that tire feel.
Yes.
So IRFFB really improves that. So sure, don't get the absolute cheapest wheel. Get the one after that, and that's if you can afford to. If you can't, but you can afford, a $200 set of pedals, get yourself some TLCM pedals, and that's going to be a bigger improvement.
What would you do again, Matt? You get to start again. Scrub all the mistakes.
Well, I like Dori's approach very much, and that going for the load cell probably would have helped. But for me, I spend a lot of time trying to very rapidly get to a B license so that I could do the Le Mans 24 once we had restarted the Missed Apex League. And if I had it to do all over again, I think I would have, instead of doing like lots of time trials and things like that to make sure I got my safety rating where it needed to be, I think it would have been better to do just like lots of racing, period, when I didn't really have to care at all about my I rating or my SR or anything else.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, and I wonder whether I wonder whether I was right to just focus in fully on one car at a time, Dori. Would you say to people, focus on that series, make it yours, and then move up? Because that's the way I did it.
No. You want to improve as a driver. If you want to improve as a driver, you need different experiences. You want to build adaptability. So you want to drive as many different cars as you can afford to in terms of time and money. So I started out with the MX-5, but pretty quickly I bought within a week, I think I bought the Ferrari GT3 when the old fixed Ferrari series was on, and then I bought the Skippy, and then I bought the F3, and then I bought some GT3s, and I did some endurance event, and then I bought a GTE, and then I bought an HPD, and all within a couple of months.
Oh,
And I was terrible. I was trash. But I today I can go in a car and within 20, 30 laps can be within half a second of top split pace.
yeah.
Within 50 laps, obviously I have some more experience now. I'll get there, but I can be within pace pretty quickly because of that.
Yeah, I was forgetting about the cost element of it because obviously we've been on it for a while and built up a library of tracks and cars and stuff. When I was first starting out in iRacing, I really couldn't justify spending any money on it at all beyond the basic sub. So I came up with all justifications of why the MX-5 really was the series to be in. But I was just skint and I didn't have the time to practice some more anyway. But like for say something like today, I've told the guys to go out and get the Lamborghini to go and be part of the swarm. And someone's like, yeah, that's just, it's a few pints in a pub. So for a hobby, if you turned up to the golf course, most people don't blink twice at losing 3 golf balls, do they? And it's not totally dissimilar. It's just persuading that your wife that a video game's the same as a round of golf, or your husband. Beg your pardon. Right. Okay, good. Let's get out of here. That was fantastic. Thank you for your company, Dori. Where can we find you? Dori_N on Twitter.
On YouTube.
YouTube.
I'm not on Twitter.
Why not?
But yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me and everything else related to me. So
you don't go on Twitter. How do you pretend you're better
I'm
than
an
people?
Old man.
Oh, okay.
Discord. I condescend on Discord.
Okay, fair enough. Trumpets. You are at MattPT55, unless you're plugging anything in particular.
The same old for me. Go buy some books my wife wrote so I can buy more cars and iRacing.
Excellent. And you can follow me as well. I am at Spanners Ready. I forgot my name there for a second. And the show is at iRacing Podcast, even though that is a really good Twitter handle and it has been hacked twice. So someone keeps getting it and getting the password. So I've made the password horrendously complicated now as well to try and counteract that. But for now, we are still at iRacing Podcast. And until we see you next, work hard, be kind, and have fun. This was Missed Apex iRacing Podcast. I'm going to be so rubbish in the GT3s. I can tell. I'm going to be I'm going to be terrible on it. As long as I don't crash, I can be slow and not crash. Then people can just be frustrated that they've done a marvelous stint, got themselves up to third or whatever, and then Spanners goes in the car and we're last. But I've not crashed, guys. I kept it on track. Yeah, at 20 seconds a lap slower.
The trick is don't start the race. So
yeah,
by the time you'll get in the car, they're either gonna wreck 13 times.
Yep.
And there'll be no pressure on you, or there won't be a car anymore.
Yeah, so I can be the one. I can be the one that's like, hey, it's no problem. Don't worry, guys. Hey, no, I don't mind.
You are absolutely true. The start of the race and the end of the race, once you get to the last half hour of the race, it gets really dodgy because people start to get really anxious if they're in a close battle for positions.
Yeah.
I guess it'll be less because it's only GT3, but especially if you're in mixed class, when the fastest class comes around and they're fighting for top 3 positions, they will absolutely just put you off the track, even when you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Okay, we're out of here. Cheers, live stream. Bye.